What I'm about to reveal will shake your understanding of how our government actually functions. Is the Labour government on the verge of total collapse just months after taking power? The evidence suggests we're witnessing something unprecedented in modern politics. Today, we dive deep into the shocking power struggle that's tearing apart Britain's ruling party from within.
We're going to do things differently. We're going to tell the truth, even when they are hard truths.
Based on exclusive insights from senior political sources and verified reports, what we've uncovered isn't just concerning, it's alarming. Before we begin, if you care about the future of our democracy, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This situation is developing by the hour, and you cannot afford to miss our updates. What happens when elected ministers discover they have absolutely no power to govern? When an unelected figure pulls every string behind the curtain? When cabinet members themselves admit they're nothing but powerless puppets? Let's break down this constitutional crisis together. Stunning revelations from inside Westminster have exposed a government in complete dysfunction. According to Sam Coates, Sky News deputy political editor, one of the most respected political journalists in Britain, not a single member of the Labour cabinet believes they have what he describes as agency to effect change in their departments. Let me be absolutely clear about what this means. Cabinet ministers, those appointed to run the country, have admitted they cannot act independently to deliver policy. They have no autonomy whatsoever. These revelations didn't come from a single anonymous source or speculation. This information is, in Coates' words, universal among ministers. Think about that for a moment. The very people elected to represent you, who climbed the political ladder to reach positions of influence, have discovered that in reality, they hold no actual power. Every decision, every policy initiative, every departmental directive must first be approved by Downing Street. This isn't normal government centralization. This is a fundamental breakdown of how cabinet government is supposed to function. The question we must ask is, if elected ministers aren't making decisions, then who is? The answer to that question leads us directly to one man, Morgan McSweeney, the Labour Chief of Staff. Our investigation reveals that McSweeney has established unprecedented control over every aspect of government operation. According to multiple verified sources, he has created a power structure where all decisions, from major policy initiatives down to routine departmental functions, must receive his personal approval. What makes this situation truly extraordinary is that McSweeney is not an elected official. He was appointed directly by the Prime Minister based on his work running local election campaigns. He holds no ministerial position. He has never stood for public office. Yet he now appears to wield more power than any elected member of government aside from possibly the Prime Minister himself. The evidence suggests McSweeney's primary political motivation is not implementing Labour's manifesto promises but rather eliminating any vestiges of left-wing politics within the party. Multiple sources confirm he was instrumental in removing the previous Labour leader and orchestrating the current administration's dramatic shift to the right, a shift that directly contradicts many of the pledges that helped win the election. This concentration of power raises profound questions about democratic accountability. When an unelected advisor can overrule cabinet ministers on matters of policy, can we truly call ourselves a representative democracy? The consequences of this power structure are now becoming painfully evident. We're seeing the first cracks in what should be a unified government. Louise Haigh, who served briefly as Transport Secretary before being removed from the cabinet, has publicly criticized the administration's rightward shift. This rare public rebuke from a former insider signals deeper discontent. Even more telling is the extraordinary stance taken by the new First Minister of Wales, who has openly declared she will reset Labour in Wales to give it a distinct Welsh tone, a direct challenge to Downing Street's centralised control. What's particularly troubling about this situation is the apparent pattern of undermining female cabinet ministers. According to Sam Coates' reporting, every single woman cabinet minister has been briefed against by Downing Street, with the sole exception of Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. This internal dysfunction is rapidly translating into electoral consequences. In the recent local elections, Labour lost an astounding 198 council seats across the country. For a party that won a landslide general election just months ago, this represents an unprecedented collapse in public support. Political analysts we've consulted suggest this could be the fastest erosion of electoral support for a new government in modern British history. Host: serious tone. Beyond the power struggles and political infighting lies an even more serious problem. The government appears incapable of actually governing. Let me walk you through how this plays out in practice. Imagine you're a cabinet minister responsible for addressing the housing crisis. You meet with your departmental experts who propose a solution. Under normal circumstances, you would evaluate the proposal, make a decision, and implement the policy. But in this administration, that process has been completely undermined. Before making any decision, you must seek approval from Downing Street and potentially the Treasury. This creates layers of bureaucracy and delay that make effective governance nearly impossible. The consequences are already evident in several critical areas. 1. The winter fuel allowance cuts that have left vulnerable citizens facing difficult choices. 2. Proposed benefit restrictions that contradict Labour's campaign promises. 3. The continued focus on balancing the books rather than addressing the cost of living crisis. We've analysed government announcements since the election and found a striking pattern. Numerous consultations and reviews have been launched, but very few concrete policies have actually been implemented. This isn't just political inefficiency, it's a fundamental inability to address the urgent challenges facing the nation. History shows us that when governments fail to function effectively, internal rebellion becomes inevitable. We're now seeing clear signs that backbench Labour MPs are reaching their breaking point. These MPs, many of whom won their seats based on promises that are now being abandoned, face a stark reality. Their own government's policies are making their re-election increasingly unlikely. Our political analysts have identified several parliamentary votes where the government's majority has been significantly reduced, an early warning sign of backbench dissent. Confidential sources within Parliament confirm that private meetings of Labour MPs have become increasingly tense, with direct challenges to the leadership's direction. The crucial question now is how long before this private dissent becomes public rebellion? History provides some guidance. When Margaret Thatcher's government faced similar internal challenges in 1990, it took just weeks for her leadership to collapse. When Theresa May lost control of her Brexit strategy in 2019, her premiership quickly became untenable. The current administration faces similar pressures, but with a crucial difference. They've been in power for less than a year. To be facing such fundamental challenges so early in their term is unprecedented and potentially catastrophic for their ability to govern effectively. The situation we're witnessing represents nothing less than a constitutional crisis. When unelected advisors wield more power than elected ministers, the very foundations of our democratic system are at risk. For the current administration, the path forward presents impossible choices. Option 1. Continue the current centralized approach, risking further ministerial resignations, backbench rebellions, and electoral collapse. Option 2. Fundamentally restructure how the government operates, which would require removing the Chief of Staff and empowering cabinet ministers to actually govern their departments. Option 3. Acknowledge the failure of their approach and call an early election, an almost unthinkable option given their recent landslide victory. The implications extend far beyond party politics. This crisis raises fundamental questions about how we are governed and whether our current system can address the urgent challenges we face as a nation. What's particularly concerning is the precedent this sets. If centralized control becomes the norm in our government, regardless of which party is in power, it fundamentally changes the relationship between voters and those they elect to represent them. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing is nothing short of a government in free fall. Just months after a historic election victory, the Labour administration finds itself paralyzed by internal dysfunction, hemorrhaging electoral support, and fundamentally unable to deliver on its promises. The coming weeks will be critical. Will ministers finally assert their independence? Will the Prime Minister recognize the damage being done by this unprecedented concentration of power? Or are we watching the slow-motion collapse of an administration that has lost its way before it even found its footing? One thing is certain. This situation cannot continue indefinitely. Something has to give. What do you think? Is this a temporary stumble or the beginning of a greater crisis? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss our updates as this situation unfolds.